Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie from Nourishment Redacted, and welcome to Lioness Lifestyle Live. This is a show where we honor a keto, carnivore, or meat-based woman. They share their experience, their healing journey, hope to inspire and to bring our community together.
And I am Cristie from Meeting Wellness. It's so nice to meet with all of you. This evening, we've all been inspired by someone's story, and we believe that sharing stories is one of the best ways to help the people who are sick and without hope.
And what? She just popped up right
here!
Yay! And I'm Adrian from Adrian K. Gledhill. This is a place where we just want to encourage and inspire women by sharing our stories of healing by eating a meat-based diet. If you have any questions for our amazing guest tonight, please put QQQ or question in front and we'll be sure to get it to her.
Adrian, we're so happy to see you. We didn't think she was coming on tonight, y'all. And look at, she's here.
The timing was impeccable. You threw me. I went, woo!
Usually it's me messing up this part of the show, but look at me. I am ready to go with this week's Roar of the Week. And here we go. This week's Roar of the Week from Happy Jojo says, howdy, beautiful lionesses and lions. Let's go, lioness and lions, roar. So I love that roar. Thank you so much for being this week's Roar of the Week. If you want to be shouted out on next week's show, drop us a comment down below after the live is over, and we will hunt through them and find a roar to shout out on next week's episode.
Okay, everyone, let's give a big roar to our guest tonight, Allison Johnson.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back, by the way. It's been a while. Thanks for being on the show. Can you share, like, for those who don't know you, share with us who you are, your health journey, and why you eat a carnivore diet?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Allie Johnson, and I have been eating a carnivore diet since January of 2023. In the middle of January, I did what I always do. And I was going to have it. Okay. And what happened was I ate something. I was going to eat, I had meal prepped and I had all these really healthy meals prepped out. And I took a bite of something and I immediately had a reaction to where I thought I had an allergic reaction. I walked from my kitchen into my living room and my entire throat was itching on the inside. My ears were itching and I was red everywhere and my chest got tight and I was scared. And I thought, oh my gosh, what has happened? And I made this connection that what I ate made me sick. And it was the first time in my life that I had ever done that, made that connection. So I knew something was weird. I have inflammation in my eye and it kind of got real cloudy and it scared me to death. So I started doing some digging on the internet, specifically on YouTube, and I found an elimination diet called the Lion Diet. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this. I had heard Mikhaila Peterson talking about the Lion Diet and how much just eating meat, just ruminant meat, salt and water, had helped clear up or help heal a lot of her autoimmune issues that she had been, suffering with since she was a child. And I have a background with a lot of autoimmune issues as well. And I thought, well, I can't go back into the sick care system of seeing specialists and waiting weeks and getting in and doing these treatments that just usually didn't work for me. And so I started the Lion Diet. I did that for 2 weeks. And within the first 2 or 3 days, I realized my inflammation had started to lower. The reaction that I had was a lot better. I stopped thinking about drinking wine every night within the first few days. And at 2 weeks, I felt so much better and I had discovered carnivore diet. And I thought, well, I'll try that for 30 days. I'll do another 2 weeks of doing this. And by 30 days, I had found Dr. Barry, and, I just found more and more people. And I thought, can I really, can I do this sustainably? And I had found a lot of just regular people that were putting these videos out of how they were doing the carnivore diet. So I was feeling so much better. Like my migraines had eased. All of the problems that I have lived with for 25 years were improved. And it all kind of happened at the same time. So I thought, I'm just going to keep doing this for 90 days. And after 90 days, my sugar cravings had reduced considerably, and I had lost 16 pounds. And I had been a chronic yo-yo dieter from the time I was really young, and I have never lost 16 pounds in my life. And so I was like, I'm going to just keep going. So what brought me to the carnivore diet was really a reaction that I had from, the veggies and seeds. I was eating a lot of seeds, and I wasn't eating a lot of protein. The reaction that I had brought me to the carnivore diet. It wasn't to lose weight in the beginning. It was to calm down my system. And I have stayed and sustained it for now 2 years. And so I have lost 50 pounds in 2 years. My mental health is the best it's ever been. And I have a pretty extensive family history of severe mental illness. So that's been fantastic. My intrusive thoughts, my high anxiety and depression, those have lifted and pretty quickly, considering the other treatments I had done. I have an autoimmune condition called Meniere's disease, and it affects my left ear. I always have to touch my left ear. I don't know why, but 10 years ago, I had a labyrinthectomy. So I'm deaf in my left ear. And at the time I had that surgery, this is a major, major surgery. So I have no balance system on this side. It's a big deal. But my specialist, he told me, he's like, well, there's always, there's a 10% chance that it could move into my other ear. And I was really young when I had Meniere's and struggled with it day to day. And so the likelihood of me developing it in my other ear is there. But because my inflammation and my insulin resistance have leveled out, then, that keeps that in remission. So I also have autoimmune Graves' disease, which is thyroid disease. And I had that taken care of with radioactive iodine in 2005. So my husband and I had been married a couple of years. We were trying to have a baby, and I didn't get pregnant within the first 2 or 3 months. It was just slight fertility issues, but it sent me to my gynecologist, and she's like, well, what's going on with your thyroid? Or no, she didn't say that. She said, what's going on with your symptoms? What are your symptoms? And I said, well, I'm not, we haven't gotten pregnant, and my hands are getting really hot. I was having hot flashes, but my hands would get really hot and my heart would race. And she's like, well, let's check your thyroid. 1 in 4 women have thyroid issues. And this was in 2005. So this is 20 years ago. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, it came back that you have Graves' disease. So you need to go see a specialist. And so I saw the specialist and I said, well, I want to get pregnant. And she's like, well, then the treatment is to take a radioactive iodine pill that will destroy your thyroid. It will kill it. And then you have to take a replacement thyroid medication because you can't live without a functioning thyroid. And so I did that, and I went on my way. And so I just have all of these issues. And then I just kept developing them more and more. And then we have 2 daughters. So, the girls are now 15 and 18. So, but over those years, I became a stay-at-home mom. I was dealing with the Meniere's, and I developed, I just gained a lot of weight. I had a lot of, anxiousness and depression and brain fog and all of the things they tell you that you're just getting older. And that's just what happens. And everybody around me was doing that. So I gained a lot of weight and I just kind of fell into this depression. So, but I didn't realize it. I really didn't realize what happened. I had no energy. I was sleeping a lot, that kind of thing. But it was for so many years that I just didn't realize that this isn't normal. So, I was for 10 years, 10 to 12 years, I was trying to lose weight always, all the time, and doing lots of yo-yo diets, fad diets, and had a really strong attachment to food. I was an emotional eater, and I was obsessed with food. It really just was an obsession. So what helped me with the carnivore diet is I didn't get hungry. So I didn't snack, or I didn't, binge, or I didn't do any of those things. And I thought, if I can just do this every day, just get through the day and do this, then, let's see what happens. And that's how I got started. And I just did it every day. And I did what worked for me. And, I tried different things, and I got a lot of help from the community and a lot of ideas. And I've done group coaching with Kelly Hogan, and that helped a ton. And, I made friends and that kind of thing. So, so now here we are. It's 2 years later. My husband also does carnivore. He started a little bit after me, like a month after me, maybe. And he's lost 40 pounds. So, and then people in my family, my extended family have started it and have had great success. So I'm really proud of them. So that's a little bit of my backstory.
That's awesome. I love your story because, as you know, Allison, but our viewers might not, we're like the same age, and our stories are very similar. Some of your things are just a little more extreme than mine. But our kids are the same age basically. And I love talking to you so much. I wanted to ask, you're like one of the first people I've heard that went 0 to lion. Like a lot of people, they might do keto and kind of dip their toe and then kind of go toward carnivore, and then maybe try lion out of, well, they still have this autoimmune thing. But you just went 0 to lion. And then that lasted about 2 weeks. Is that because you found lion unsustainable and you thought carnivore would be more sustainable for you? Or what caused you to kind of go lion and then let me just back off and go to regular carnivore?
I am so extreme. I'm so abstain, I am so all or nothing. And I was so desperate and scared that, that idea of, oh, well, this is good, well, then more of this is better. It's that's not always the case, but I have to learn that the hard way. So I was like, I'm going to do the most extreme thing and do lion. I have tried, in the first 9 months that I did carnivore, I did pulling a lot of different levers, and I did get into a kind of the trap of all of the noise. Try this and try this and try this and try this. And so there were times in that first 9 months that I would try lion again, and it wasn't as sustainable. It was really tough for me to do lion because especially in the beginning, because from a history of restricting, I couldn't eat a lot. I could not ever eat enough at once of just ground beef that, I just couldn't. It was not as sustainable for me to do lion. Now I do, I might just not realizing it, do 4 or 5 days of lion. I am a little bit more able to do intuitive carnivore now. And so I just kind of play with it and that's why I do that. Yeah.
This is amazing. You kind of defy this theory that I had that carnivore wasn't enough, but it seems like it really is for you for the weight loss piece.
Yes. For the weight loss piece, I think so too. And I wouldn't be surprised with all of the things looking back, because I remember things from my childhood, like sicknesses, illnesses, and the things I've dealt with. And I would not be surprised at all if I have SIRS, if I have mold illness. But for some reason, thank God, carnivore mitigates almost all of my symptoms, keeps everything dormant. And if at any time it stops working, I will try something else. I'm not for myself, I'm not dogmatic. I will try whatever it is because I'm willing to do that, so if if something stops working, then I'll try something else, you know? Because I do think that's one thing that I've really learned is our bodies are so resilient. Like some of the things that I've gone through physically, I know that my body is resilient. And so, but our bodies also kind of start to figure things out. So if I do high fat or, you know, for 7 days in a row, my body's like, oh, I know what you're doing. It will like, you know, kind of give me, I have to continue to work with it a little bit, you know, but I have been really stable for a year of carnivore.
That's in.
Go ahead.
No, follow up.
I was just gonna say, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this Graves, you know, because we have so many surgeries that people do, and then later you go, I can't believe we did that as the answer. Have you seen if there's a different answer out there, or is that still the best protocol? Like if someone's out there and is struggling like that?
I will tell you, that's a great question, Adrian. This is something that I have become very passionate about in the last 6 months, 9 months. I believe, and I might get emotional about it. I'm going to try not to, but I believe the most important basic human right is informed decision, informed choice. And Graves' disease is autoimmune, hyperthyroid, which it's not as common. You know, if you hear about thyroid issues, a lot of times it's Hashimoto's, and that's can be very difficult to detect. But that is hypo. That's an autoimmune lower thyroid, and mine was hyper. And I know people in the Dr. Barry's community. I know at least 2 people that had Graves' disease diagnoses that corrected it with a carnivore or keto, low carb, whatever diet. But today, 20 years after I had my Graves' disease and my treatment, the treatment path is exactly the same today as it was 20 years ago, which is to destroy the function of your thyroid and then replace it with a pill. And I try not to get too bogged down with the outrage because it is what it is. But it doesn't even make sense. Let's destroy a part of an organ in your body to replace it with that. It takes some people years to with their dose and messing with it. And you don't get a lot of advice, like I went years with getting my labs done maybe once a year and saying, oh, I'm on this dose, calling it in. Hey, yeah, I need a refill. I'm on this dose. And they just say, oh, okay, and send it in. It's just this whole thing that is really upsetting, because if my doctor had told me, hey, try some kind of dietary intervention, some type of nutritional intervention, try whatever, I would have done it. I would have absolutely done it. And I think I believe that should be the first line of treatment is, hey, what are you eating? What's your lifestyle like? How are you handling stress? That kind of thing. And the same thing goes for Meniere's. Like Meniere's devastates people's lives. My Meniere's disease, I diagnosed at age 23. I had it until I was 38. I still have it. There's no cure for Meniere's. But my hearing went out the window over those 16 years that I lived with it. It was debilitating because I started getting in the same thing. And the treatment path for Meniere's is exactly the same. It's lots of pharmaceuticals, lots. It's surgeries. I had 3 surgical type procedures, and I was treatment resistant. So I ended up with a labyrinthectomy. So I believe very strongly that people should have an informed choice. And then if you decide, hey, yeah, I want to try this path or this path, that's fine. But you should know when you're dealing with your hormones or you're dealing with, your hearing or anything that's going to permanently affect your body, you should have all of the information so you could make the best choice.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I think that's kind of why we all come, to this point where it's like, I have to find the answer, because you go to, whether it be the doctors or family members or just, research, sometimes it can feel like it all just brings you to, like this back way alley, and you're like, oh, I don't know. And then, people are like, it's okay, you'll be safe, you're fine. And then it can really just end up blowing up in your face sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, I'm going to make a change for me and see what happens and learn as much as possible. You have to be open-minded. And so I would love to know how you were eating before you had reached the Lion diet and then carnivore. And what do you think there was any particular foods? Do you think there were specific foods that might have been causing the inflammation?
Okay. So really, I just, I grew up eating a standard American diet. I raised my kids that way. And I would always just go on a diet to lose weight. I never did, I never tried like a whole plant-based diet. I never tried just that. I was eating mostly plant-based because I didn't like meat. Which I think is really common, especially amongst women. I didn't like meat. And if I did eat meat, it was bland chicken breast. It wasn't hamburgers or anything. I was addicted to carbs. So I was eating. So in January of 23, the reason I started in the middle of January is because my family was down and was visiting us, and they had gone home. And so I was like, because I can't start a diet with them, everywhere. Or, I wanted to enjoy the holidays and that kind of thing. So I was eating, it was pretty high carb and low fat, but it was mostly whole foods, but it was very seed heavy. It was chia bowls and that kind of thing, but at least it was not quite as processed. I do think that and I was drinking a lot of wine. Okay. So that didn't help, and it's like Dale and I would sit down and split a bottle of wine a night. And I had been doing that for months. My dad had died in February of 2022. And my aunt had also died 2 weeks before him. And so it was like 2022 is a blur. But I knew in the fall of that year, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting older, and dad died, my aunt died. And like, I gotta do something about this extra weight, and I'm old. And, that's what I used to think. So I was, I had started like intermittent fasting, but my whole life up to that point was really just the standard American diet. And I was an emotional eater. I do think that I probably have whatever's in my mitochondria that makes it the way it is. I do think that I have problems with like some vegetables and like seeds and things like that. I do think that there's something there that's not ever going to sit well with my system. And I never liked vegetables. And here's the thing. I don't even like fruit. I never liked fruit. And that sounds, everybody's like, oh, fruit's wonderful. And I just never cared about fruit. I wanted carbs and I wanted sugar. That's all, I was addicted to that. Because like I said, I was like addicted to it, because that's why one of the reasons I have an addictive type personality. So I don't know, is it this or is it that? I'm not sure, but just eating beef, butter, bacon, eggs is what I usually just stick to. And in the beginning, I couldn't tolerate pork. And for some reason, and I can't even remember exactly why I thought that, but I had already made that connection that was another reason that I did the Lion diet. That just came back to me. I remember I actually didn't eat bacon probably for 3 months in the beginning. And I have always liked bacon. I mean, I don't think there's that many people that don't like bacon. There are people out there, but I don't know. So did that answer your question, Ellie? Yeah, is that good?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely seems like you were going on the path of like, okay, I need to clean it up. But definitely, I'm glad you addressed the wine, because, I feel like this is just me personally. I used to socially drink. I loved craft beers. I live in Florida, so there's tons of like breweries and everything like that. I feel like it almost came a part of a little bit of my personality. Like, I'm going to collect all these bottle caps, and I'm going to be that kind of person that just loves, trying all the things. And I feel like carbs or alcohol or whatever, it kind of becomes a little bit of like your personality almost.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really glad that you were able to strip away all those like external like labels, and you were able to just go back to eating whole food, because that's what a carnivore diet is. It's a whole food diet.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So many people, when I talk to them about, even just low carb, but they always tell me a thing. It's always a thing. Like some people say chocolate, but there's a lot of t-shirts that say their wine. Like they could not give up their wine. Like they're just not ready or willing to do that. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's this sounds terrible, but I always was living for wine at night. Food. All right, where are we going to go next? Where are we going to go? Do they have wine? And so for my urge for wine to have gone away so quickly is incredible. It's one of the most incredible things that I've experienced. And the emotional addiction to food, the food addiction, it took a lot. Sugar's the hardest thing I've ever quit, and I've had to quit a lot of things. So I can't even. I used to be so worried in the first 90 days, the first more than 90 days, that I would mindlessly eat something at work. Like there was always candy, like always. I mean, you've had, you work, so you've been out in public. It was everywhere all the time. And I was so afraid that I would just pick it up and eat it before I knew what I was doing. And so I would dream about it. And occasionally I will dream about eating sugar, even now. Not very often now, but in the beginning I was dreaming about it all the night. Yeah. So it was just the craziest thing. So anyway.
That's interesting that you followed up with that, because you're kind of touched on my next question a little bit, which was going to be those things that you had to kick. And you said sugar was harder to kick than the alcohol, which you're not the only person I've heard say that. But in that first 90 days where it took for those cravings to, subside, how did you deal with them? Like I ate a lot of like butter.
Yes.
Light butter, stuff like that is what helped me.
I did that too in the beginning, and I would have to distract myself. I'd have to go in the other room. And I do remember in the beginning, we had to get rid of, like, we could not have certain things in the house. Like, so for me, there's no way you do not have brownies in my house, and I don't have a problem with that now. Now we don't buy that kind of stuff anymore. We haven't for like a year and a half, but I'm around it when I'm out of town or, whatever. And it's like a switch has been flipped and it's off right now. It's the strangest thing because I don't think about it. It's like I have a blind spot for it now, and I can look at it and it doesn't bother me. But in those first few days, I would have to eat a lot of times butter, something like that. Or like be full, eat enough so that I wasn't going to get hungry. Because I mean, that was one of the reasons I was never very good at dieting, fad diet, yo-yo dieting, is because I would get so hungry. It wasn't because of, lack of effort. I did this program, a 90-day program in 2018, and I lost like 7 pounds, but I have never been that hungry. And I was eating whole food. It was like you put the food into the containers, and they're color-coded containers, and you can eat all the veggies you want. And, I mean, it was like a 1,200 calorie diet. And I woke up in the middle of the night consistently with like hunger pain. I was like, this is crazy. I did the whole thing. I did it. And there was a lot of exercising too. And I just couldn't ever sustain anything like that, And then growing up, it's the fad diets, and like there was nothing that I would not have tried, you know, and from a young age. And I was a healthy, normal weight kid and teenager. But the idea is you can never be too skinny or, you know, too rich. It's kind of that kind of thing was the idea when I was growing up. But, and however, you know, whatever means that is, and which is the most unhealthy thing. So nobody do that. So, but yeah, in the beginning, it was moment to moment. And sometimes, you know, like I just got to eat this and focus on something else. And I'm not going to, you know, like I knew about intermittent fasting. So I knew fasting was a good idea, you know, that could help. And I thought I got to get to my next, you know, hour. And those are some of the things that I did.
So have you, by chance, let any weird foods back in, like any processed foods? Like, I'm just going to go ahead and out myself that recently I let myself eat Quest chips, but I noticed that is not helping me get to my goals, and it certainly doesn't make me feel good. Have you ever played around with anything? Are you a purist? Do you drink coffee? Or have you been able to just have a few things back and still be able to maintain your awesome results?
Thank you. Okay, so I've played around a lot with dairy, especially in the beginning. And I love dairy and I love heavy cream. And then just really until recently, I'd say the last 6 months, I've been dairy free. So I will tell you this. I actually just lied, because in the Lion diet, I have never eliminated coffee. I was drinking coffee in the first 2 weeks of the Lion diet because I've never stopped drinking coffee. I don't have a problem with it. If I am having a problem with it, I don't know about it. I love coffee. And I'm not a coffee connoisseur, just coffee, butter, salt. And I have been doing that. I actually started doing that before I started, like around the fall of 2022. I started drinking keto coffee. And when I went to the Lion diet, I just did coffee, butter, salt. That was it. And I did that for months. A year ago, I needed to get, you know, I needed it to get more protein. And so I have done heavy cream and I love it, but it doesn't love me back as much. It doesn't give me like terrible issues. Like if I went out and had coffee with cream in it tomorrow, I would be fine. You know, I might get some breakout and I might get some aches, but I would be okay. So I'm not a purist. I am a very live and let live person anyway. If it's working, do it all day. If it's not working, change something. You know, for me, this is not a diet anymore. It was a diet in the beginning. I kept thinking I had an end date. But by 90 days, I was like, well, I'm not going to go back to eating something like that, you know, like whatever. But is cheese going to help me get by, you know, in this taco bowl, because I am kind of a hyper carnivore, you know, because I do just beef, butter, bacon, eggs, but I cannot eat another bowl of, you know, ground beef without some tacos. Well, I can't do spices very well. Spices do mess with me still. But if I'm going to go outside the box, I'm going to do it probably with dairy, with cheese. And in fact, somebody's going to take my carnivore card away, but on Sunday, I bought Greek yogurt unflavored, and I ate some a couple of days ago. I did. I know. And I've been fine. But I was thinking about it and it wasn't like I was fixated on it, but I was like, why am I thinking about it? And so I have learned after 2 years, like, I'm going to have some of it. So I did, and I've been okay. You know, I didn't explode. I didn't like poof and go, you know, so I'm not a purist. And I do think people have to do what is sustainable and whatever works for them, you know. So
I think it's my turn. Sorry, I had connection issues earlier, but I'm back, and I'm glad to be back to continue talking. So I would love to talk about your mental health before and how you're feeling like maybe in those early days and how you're feeling now, because mental health for me was one of the biggest changes. I had depression, I had panic attacks, I had some symptoms of depersonalization disorder. If you don't know what that is, it's like basically disassociating. And so I didn't leave my house for many years. I kind of gave up on life, and then you start eating better, and then it's all of a sudden like, oh, I kind of like want to be alive. I kind of want to do things. I want to be with my loved ones. Like everything just kind of switches. So I'd love to know your process with that.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I have a couple times in my life, I've had clinical depression, actually clinical depression, and had been on medication for that. And my dad was bipolar. And so when my dad was diagnosed in 1988, so it was years and years ago, it wasn't even called bipolar. It was manic depression. And I was 12 and a half. And so he went in to the system, and my mom was a nurse. She's retired now, but so he would go to the hospital and have hospital stays, and my mom worked there, but not on the same floor. But that really shaped a lot about what I knew about mental illness, and like, oh, it runs in the family, and it's a lithium deficiency in the brain and whatever it is. But I never had any of the symptoms. I didn't have trouble the way my dad did, I was never bipolar, but I did have seasons where I was really depressed. And when I got older and got laid off, I was laid off twice at 2 different times for my medical problems with my Meniere's. But the second time, when I had my labyrinthectomy, my mental health was bad, was not great. But it was more like a midlife type, or like, oh, you're getting older, you have young kids, you're tired all the time. When your kids are little, it's so hard. And I know that 2 of you are in those days. It's so physically demanding. I know that part eases. It now, listen, it's not great. I mean, it's great having kids that are older too, Cristie, but it's it's just different. And so I couldn't think outside of what I was going through every day. But it was just that run of the mill, like, oh gosh, this is terrible. And so, but as I got older and really like probably around 2019 and started having more health issues, like my eye, I didn't even tell you about my eye, but I have inflammation in my eye, and we don't know what causes it. We don't know the root cause of it. So I was, brain foggy and that kind of thing. But I had such intense, intrusive thoughts that it was becoming crippling. I wouldn't go, I didn't want to drive. I didn't work outside the home. And so everything was like, well, what if that tree falls on our house? And it really was outlandish, irrational fears. And I drove poor Dale, my husband, I would say, well, what if a fire just starts, like, something catches fire? And he's like, honey, no, it's okay. Breathe. And at night I would lay down and it was on. Like, we couldn't talk about anything that was of any kind of nature or anything that wasn't a happy thing for like hours leading up to bed, because I would lay there and I couldn't sleep. And so I couldn't ride in a car very well, and we'd take a lot of road trips. So I don't know how we made it through, but we did. And so the first road trip we took was 2 months after I'd started Carnivore, and we were on our way home. And I was like, oh, I haven't had any kind of like, almost like panic attacks. I hadn't had any. And it was the first time in years, probably at that point, like 13 years, that and I was like, oh, I'm not having racing thoughts at night. I'm not having these intrusive thoughts. And so that has been so incredible that I feel like I don't actually ever know that I have ever felt this good mental health wise. And I was like, man, I wish we had known this 35 years ago. So my dad, like I said, he passed away a couple of years ago now, but like, this is so powerful. And so, I'm really passionate about the mental health aspects too. And I do get really pretty upset about it, you know, but so instead I focus that energy on telling people, look, just try this food thing because you get really immediate feedback. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, this will work. Let me try this. And you don't get side effects, you know, that you can't mitigate pretty quickly. And so let's try it. Let's just try something, you know, low carb, whatever, try something and go that route. And so that's some of my mental health issues. Yeah.
Well, Allie, you talked about this, but I'll give you the chance if you want to elaborate. Joseph is like asking the question, cheese on carnivore. So I thought it'd be fun to go around the circle and talk about how, if, or how we eat cheese. Yeah. So you talked about that a little bit, Allison. Do you have anything to add to your cheese story there?
No, I mean, I really like cheese. I wish I could eat a lot more of it, but I'm at maintenance on my weight, so I don't have that issue so much anymore. But it still doesn't agree with me as much as I wanted to, you know, that kind of thing. So
for me, I eat cheese occasionally. I don't have any, like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't upset my stomach. I don't seem to have like a lactose issue or anything like that. But I will say when I was more keto, when I first started, I had a hard time staying away from the cheese. And now that I'm carnivore, I tend to eat it occasionally. Sometimes as little as 0 times in a month, once a month, you know, sometimes a couple times in a week. Adrian, you know, the Gardner's Wisconsin cheese. I bought some for my mom for Christmas, but I kept a couple for me. And so I just had the last one today. But I probably, who knows when I'll have cheese again. It's like I ate that. I was like, well, that was good. And now I'm not still thinking about cheese. And the next time I can have cheese, I'm not sad that that was the last of that cheese. And I'm not worried about when I can get more cheese. So I feel like, you know, the occasional cheese, I do it. I don't know if it affects my weight or not, but I certainly don't break out or have any gastrointestinal issues from it. So that's kind of how I do cheese. How about you, Adrian?
Previously, it used to, if I even added a measured out amount of half and half into my coffee, it was an immediate 8-pound weight gain and my stomach would look pregnant. And I've even taken pictures of this. And so I had some major issues with dairy. And then the other thing was I found it very, very addicting. Like I just wanted more, especially yogurt. And then cottage cheese too. Like when you're eating cottage cheese, it's fine. But after you put it down, your mouth goes, I want more of that. But that has obviously changed since I added more tools to my toolbox. Now my gut has healed a bit to the point that I don't bloat up. I have had it every single day of the journey since I added this other tool to my toolbox. And I still have continued to lose weight. So it makes a big difference when your gut and your metabolism are working a lot better. And then I just want to say we should always support small businesses like Gardner's Cheese, especially because they're from Wisconsin. But tip and trick is that it's really cheap at Aldi.
Adrian coming with those hot tips. Thank you for that. I have not tried.
Dang it, she froze. The Aldi's really good, but support your small businesses.
Okay, well, we'll let Ellie talk about cheese when she gets back. I'm sure she'll fix her connection. So, Adrian, I think that was my question. So I guess it's your turn. Karen had a question if you want to pop up that up there or if you have your own question.
I will. First, I just wanted to make a comment that this is why you message me all the time, because I'll tell my story and we have such a similar story. Ooh, go ahead and tell us about your cheese.
Tell us about cheese, Ellie. We were just
we love dairy.
I love
Need a dairy banner.
Oh yeah, someone make one. Okay, so when I first started doing carnivore, I just always wanted to do variety because I felt like the more variety of foods I have, the more potential nutrients and vitamins that I'm having. I do come from like, you know, a little bit of that yo-yo dieting, you know, restriction equals bad. It makes me want to eat more bad foods. I have this, I call it my little rebel that's inside me. And the little rebel wants to, you know, like eat cake and pasta Rebels like, I have a little bit of cheese. I have a little bit of pickle, but we're still eating meat, right? And I have a little heavy cream in my coffee. I'm fine. Like I don't get bloated. I did used to have some IBS issues, but they've been pretty good since being on carnivore. So yes, please to cheese.
Nice.
I felt like every time I took it out, I was white knuckling. And so I'm grateful to have it. And now when I add it, I truly am just putting like a little cheese on my hamburger, a little cheese on my eggs. I'm measuring it out in my coffee, and I don't drink whole coffee, which actually, you guys, I'm 2 days sober from the bean.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes. I promised, I work with a coach that helps me with mindset. And I promised her I would cut the bean because it wasn't serving me. I'm having sleep issues. I have adrenal issues. I have mold issues. And so we're going to give it 2 weeks. So anywho, okay. So you were telling your story about the intrusive thoughts. I used to have those. Mine are gone. I had a hard time in the car because I would just picture that we suddenly hit something, and I was constantly doing this in the car. I mean, I was,
Yes.
and it made it difficult, honestly, for me to even drive because a car would come up next to me. I'd be like, I mean, it was so bad. And I had to do a combination of things. I also had to move, and the moving made a big difference, but it was also the carnivore at the same time. Like I was throwing the kitchen sink. Like I was holding my babies every night on the floor because I was concerned if we sat in the chair, we might fall off and all die. And I would just hold them. And it was so awful. And so if anybody is out there sitting there, just please know, like, you don't need to go to the nut ward. You need a change in diet.
No.
You need a different doctor besides standard doctors, because they're just going to throw an antidepressant at you. And that is not what you need. And perhaps you got to look at your air. And now, I don't know about you, but do you look at kids who are dysfunctional in school totally different? I remember the bad kids when I was growing up, and I thought, is their house? No, it's brain inflammation. I don't know. That's not my question.
Yeah. Yes.
I think things like that, I think so differently now after experiencing it. When you talk, I have a family member who's schizophrenic, and I now think not, hey, is that hereditary per se? I say, hey, my family member has significant brain issues. Like, and I just wonder if it could be healed. And same with the surgery, gastric bypass. And how many uteruses have we whacked out? Sorry.
Oh yeah. Mine's gone too. Yeah.
Yes. And gallbladders. We could go on. Okay. Anyway, the question here is pretty awesome because I think, I'm going to guess, one of your steps to being so successful is your carnivore friends.
Yes.
So our dear Karen would like to know, where was your first meetup?
Oh, Miss Karen. Hi. Yes, it was Naperville, Illinois, at Chicagoland Meetup, June 22nd of 2024. So last summer, Dale and I drove up, and that's when we met you, Adrian, in person. Yeah. And Karen and Amy, we call her Amy Dave, and Amy B, and Taryn and Trisha. And I met all of those great people. And it was so great. It was the Midwest Carnivore Meetup because we're trying to move from Tennessee back to Indiana still. And so months and months and months have passed, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so we thought we'd already be back in Indiana by then. And so, but anyway, we went, and it was fantastic. I highly recommend, if you can go to a meetup of, even if it's just like 2 or 3 people, do it. It's so incredible. And so, yes, the carnivore.
I just want to make a side note.
Yeah.
If you could go to a Karen Miles meetup, or you could start your own. And what's really cool is this idea of everybody kind of contributing something that's special. Like Amy Dave, is that what you called her? Amy D?
Yeah.
Amy Dave brought cream, special, unadulterated cream. And another person brought stickers, and another person brought mugs with Karen's face on them. And it's just so fun to have fun,
Yeah, it really is.
Hot dogs.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I highly recommend them. Sorry, I got a dry in my throat. Hang on. Oh, and look, my zero carb life. That's a Kelly Hogan sticker. So I joined a Kelly Hogan group after about 6 months of carnivore. And I needed, you know, I had all these questions, and there's so much noise, you know, when you first get, try this and you're doing this and don't do that and do, you know, and my hair was falling out. I went through, you know, in the first year. So in 2023, I had a huge hair loss, and my hair is actually completely different than it was 2 years ago. And it's a long story, but the first part was my thyroid, and I was under eating, and it was it protein, and oh, it's so much. And my hair was like my shield. Okay. So it was really long and full and thick and gorgeous. And so, and it was my shield. At least I had the hair, is what I always thought, when I didn't want anybody, you know, I wanted to hide behind it or whatever. And so when it all started falling out, like I had this massive hair shedding, and I'd had that, you know, postpartum and that kind of thing. But this was like, is this stopping? Is it stopping? And it is a, you know, natural part of life. It can be a number of things. And so that was the real reason I started with group coaching with Kelly Hogan, because I wanted my hair to stop falling out, and it kind of did. And I knew the cycle of, okay, you're going to have hair loss, then it's going to level out, and then you'll have regrowth. And I did go through that. So having people in, you know, on a computer that you get to meet in real life has been incredible, especially for someone my age, when they were like, never meet people on the internet in real life. You know, we grew up that way. Like, those people are crazy. My mom thought I had lost my mind when I was like, yeah, we're going to Chicago. Why? We're going to meet a whole bunch of meat eaters. She was like, that sounds dangerous. And it was the greatest thing ever. So
stranger danger is totally a thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I guess I'll just say it, like, the February 8th Tampa meetup was going to be my first meetup. I've never met any other carnivore except Adrian, who came over to my house to escape a hurricane, and that was fun. So that's gonna be really great. So I want to shout out your YouTube channel and your Instagram. So I'm going to pop up your YouTube channel and sell it, girl. What are your upcoming projects? What can people find you? Please share.
Okay. So on YouTube, I'm really working on that channel, just not overthinking it and just sharing my experiences. So Dale and I have been married over 21 years. We have 3 children, but one's a grown man, and he lives in Indiana with his wife. And then the girls are young. And so I like to share. It's just really a lifestyle channel now. I do a lot. It's mostly focused on, you know, carnivore and what I've experienced with that. And I am a goofball. Okay. So when you go to my YouTube channel, it's pretty much, you know, just talking head videos, that kind of thing. But then over on Instagram, I've been making reels and doing funny things and, you know, kind of exploring the creativity over there. So on Instagram, you can find me, what is it? Carnivore.Alley. Yeah. Carnivore.Alley. And I do a lot of, you know, more of the trends and things like that. And you can see before and afters, a lot of before and afters. Cause like I said, I really look completely different and I feel completely different. So the projects I'm working on, I would love to continue to talk to people. I get kind of overwhelmed, like with the tech part, but yeah, that was 2016 on the left, 2016. And that was 2020. And there's some insulin resistance in my face. I think that was 2018. You know, you can see a lot of the inflammation, and I had discoloration. Like you could see it so much through there. And that went away really fast. Thank goodness. So projects, I just really am going to, you know, keep sharing about. I've eased up on myself that it doesn't have to be perfect. People don't care about the editing as much, and it's editing. Ugh, I don't like it. And so I like to say it. I like to get it out there and then, you know, take it or leave it. And I like to have fun with that, but I love YouTube. So I love that hearing people's stories. I like people's lives, and I'm obsessed with people and how they do it and how they try it and how they live their lives. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, that is awesome. I am going to take my turn with the present button over here because we have a wheel that we like to spin around here. And here it is. I'm going to spin our Lioness Lifestyle Live wheel, and we're going to hunt down a meaty question for you, Allison.
Nice.
Here we go. All right, here is the meaty question we hunted down. Do you believe that a carnivore diet is suitable for everyone, or do you think it's a more individualized approach?
I think it's suitable for everyone. I do think you need to put your own spin on it. You have to figure out what is sustainable for you. And I'm going to say that nobody is getting a special ribbon or award if they're the carnivore the most, or they did this and they never did this. It doesn't matter. You have to figure out what is serving you best, what gets you to your goals, and what you can sustain. If this is more than just a diet, you know, because my sister-in-law can do this, or my husband. So Dale's a moderator. He could go and eat some junky stuff that is going to affect him way less than it's going to affect me. But that doesn't mean he's better or worse. Our self-worth is not based in that. And so do what works for you and what you can sustain. And there you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you remember how we end this?
With a roar. Is that right?
All right, everybody, get your roars ready and put them in the comments because we're all going to roar to signify our strength and our meatiness and our, yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Roar! Great roar, Ellie.
Get scared, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, I have to add mine.
Don't forget your roar, Ellie.
Must participate.
Roar and a good night. I love it, Karen.
And so if you made it this far into the video and you're part of our replay crew, please write roar down in the comments so we can thank you, saying, hey, you made it this far and you listened and you enjoyed the story. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, from all of us here at Lioness Lifestyle Live, we want to thank you for tuning in with our awesome guest, Allie. We will see you back here next week when we will have someone else to chat with. Until then, good night, everybody. Bye.